those of you who participate in this, I'll say a big thank you. Please continue to participate. The more people we have participating in the survey, it makes it better. And that's the website for the survey. We currently have it open, and we usually filter up to C-level executives. So it's C-level executives now. The job picture is much worse in '08. And the numbers are still being revised. And unfortunately, they are being revised downward. When you take a look at by sector, you look at the change from '06 to '07, and you see just a couple of negatives, right? So the change was actually a lot more growth. '07 to '08, and a whole list of negatives. What does this mean for tax revenue? And I'll confess, forecasting tax revenue is no easy task. It's our biggest challenge in the center. And this is a little crowded, but our baseline forecast for '09 is about a 1.1% increase in total tax revenues. I just saw somebody I knew, so I just had to acknowledge him. So, we have run up to date for the first 5 months, it's about 3% below and not near what we forecast. And I'll tell you what we forecast for these periods. For '04, it says 8.2, we have forecast 7.2. In '05, we had an 8.7, it came out as 10.9. So it looks like in the good years, we under forecast. In '06, we were again at 8.1, this was 9.8. '07, we had a 5.5, it came out as 4.2. '08, we had a 3.7, it came out 2.7. So I guess if that's still the trend, then you can say maybe it's going to be below the 1.1 that we think it should be for '09. But we think it will still be below trend for 2010, unless we do something about taxes in this state. And we really need to do something about taxes in this state, because every study I've seen, I've been in the state 11 years, every study, every task force, every report says the same thing. Taxes are not adequate, they are not fair, they are not efficient, both in the inflow and use. So it says we have to do something about it. And folks, I was in Minnesota when I first came to this country. They have higher taxes, and they still have those companies headquartered there that they do. They have a better economy than we do. It's very simple, really. We consume private goods and public services, or private goods and services. We all woke up this morning, got out of our private beds, came out, breathed the public air, rode on the public roads. We have to make sure we balance it right. Remember the equation we had before. If you don't balance it right, we won't be in the right direction. Long-term trend, tax collections grow at about 5.2%. Okay, and we like to look at the two funds, but everybody who looks at taxes knows that forecasting those funds is a very tough thing, because the legislature plays their own games every year. I don't mean games to mean like it's a negative connotation to it, but they take actions that you really can't forecast. Bottom line for Alabama, output will grow 0.3% in our estimation. Jobs will lose about 22,000 for '09. And that's about a 60% likelihood. This range has a 90% likelihood, so there's a 10% for something better or something worse. We have to have education and economic diversification as priorities, and we have to focus on optimality and sustainability as our driving principles. We have to do what is best, and we have to make sure it's sustainable over time. Going back to those three variables, if consumption is at 66%, If we save at the long-term rate of 8%, that will be 74. That leaves 26% for public sector. Very simple rules, but it will get us to the state we need to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eddie. All right, now we're going to ask Justice Neighbors to come forward and just tell us everything you know about the stimulus money. Basically, we want to know when you're going to start writing checks. That's the bottom line. But anything you want to tell us about that, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Charles. And Dr. Eddie, that was an excellent presentation, very informative. We're in a very difficult economic environment, but it is nice to see, for the first time in my life at least, that Alabama is doing a little better than the rest of the nation. So our problems are difficult, but maybe that they're not as great as they would have been relative to the rest of the country a generation ago. I want to talk to you just briefly about the stimulus package that we are all paying a lot of attention to today. First, I want to tell you essentially what our role is, and when I say our, the governor asked me to be a facilitator and an advisor to him with respect to the stimulus package. On the team that we put together is David Perry, who works with me at Main and Cooper, and he is the guru of the stimulus package. And Levita Battle has also joined our team, and she especially is going to be involved with the stimulus dollars that will flow to the nonprofit sector of our community and the state. So the three of us are working together. We are not policymakers. We are not given the assignment of deciding where the dollars go. To the extent there will be discretionary grants involved, the governor is the person primarily involved in making some choices, but most of the dollars flow through channels that are already existent, in policies that are already existent. Just to give you an example, the highway and transportation dollars are going to flow through the Department of Transportation. Altogether, some $400 million additional dollars will flow through DOT. About $100 million will come directly to the local communities of Birmingham, Jefferson County, and others throughout the state. The Department of Transportation has a 5-year plan that it is working, and the additional $400 million that will flow through the Department of Transportation will simply allow it to go further down its list that it has already created for the next 5 years' work, go down that list more rapidly. So no real new decisions will be made. The policies and process that is already in place will simply be followed by DOT. For instance, Medicaid will get about $800 million over in federal matching funds over the next 2 years. But of course, our Medicaid policies are well established already too. So no additional decisions, policy decisions are being made there. But the role that we have to play is to advise the governor as to how this plan is working. Be sure that the state of Alabama, and by the state of Alabama we include state government, municipal government, county government, local government, and also business and nonprofits maximize their opportunity to get the dollars that are available under the package. Approximately $3 billion will flow through the state, into the state, on a formula basis. There will not be competition for grants for that $3 billion. It will flow through the Department of Transportation, through Medicaid and education. Those are the three primary beneficiaries. And it will otherwise flow, and I will go over some of the programs with you by formula. In other words, Alabama will get its share. Now, in order for us to keep our share, we of course need to use the federal monies that will flow into the state in accordance with the legislation. And that is an important part of our work